Welcome back to our Deep Dive series. During the second season of our Deep Dives, we will explore the importance of liberal political ideology. Over the course of 4 pre-recorded episodes, we will explore questions such as: what future does the world want? How can we shape our own destiny? And why are current Western leaders so bad at addressing these fundamental questions? In September, we will be back with our regular schedule. The rise of the West has been intertwined with the rise of ideas. For the past 400 years, the West has seen the rise of many philosophical and political schools of thought, more than during any other time in history. Some of these were deeply destructive, while others became pillars of the successes Western societies enjoyed, particularly during the past 50 years. The 18th century saw the rise of Enlightenment thinking. The 19th century witnessed the rise of ideological clashes between traditionalists, anarchists, Marxists, and many more. The 20th century was mostly a clash between authoritarianism and liberal democracy, with liberal democracy eventually winning out. And the 21st century is... what exactly? The 21st century is one of rapid innovation, economic and political change. But new ideas are not leading the way. Conversations about the future have little to no impact on policy. Visionary perspectives fall on deaf ears. It is as if the West is now enslaved by its own system, no longer caring and no longer capable of escaping the clutches of neoliberalism and technological progress. By neglecting the key pillars of historic success, it has unwittingly surrendered its future to dystopian forces. After 3 centuries of immense intellectual evolution and painful, hard-fought social and political progress, we now live in the age of apathy. Let us start this series with the 18th century. Europe was gearing up to unshackle itself from despotic monarchies that had ruled the continent for so long. Philosophers and intellectuals built on foundations laid by previous movements to offer practical idealism as an answer to unsustainable authoritarianism. The development of the printing press had not only allowed a much faster dissemination of ideas, it also led to a fast-growing number of educated and knowledge-hungry youths. An increasingly organized and critical group of intellectuals was thus created beyond the control of traditional hierarchies. Whereas previously the intellectual class had mostly consisted of clergies who were still constrained by their own religious authorities, now their mantle was taken over by much less regulated middle-class philosophers and activists. Great interest in scientific discovery that had begun in previous centuries, now in the 18th century, coincided with introducing similar empiricism and reason to the political sphere. This logically led to an understanding that the key to a well-functioning society is its ability to provide generalized human well-being, something which the antiquated power structures could not sufficiently provide. In some cases, such as France and the 13th colonies across the Atlantic, this proved a fertile breeding ground for revolutionary ideas against a failing ruling class. In other cases, such as Britain, it put pressure on the ruling elites to incrementally reform. Education, expanding knowledge, intellectual elites, and broad unease with the status quo led to change. Not all of this change led to immediate political improvement or social success. The French Revolution culminated in the Reign of Terror, political chaos, and eventually a deeply belligerent French Empire under Napoleon Bonaparte. Nonetheless, despite the corresponding chaos, France and its Enlightenment ideals would become a long-term symbol of European renewal based on reason, secularism, and scientific progress. Across the pond, the United States, after winning its Revolutionary War against the mighty British Empire, put many of the French Enlightenment ideas immediately into action. Its Declaration of Independence, as well as its Constitution, radically transformed the way that the West would look at itself, its identity, and aspirations. This too led to internal violence, first against indigenous population and African slaves, later during the Civil War. But just as was the case with France, its deeply intellectual and idealistic founding principles would grow stronger over time. A common pattern also witnessed in Britain, German societies, Scandinavia, and the Dutch Republic was that rising intellectual elites would exchange knowledge, inspire new ideas, and structure their political and social conclusions through reason and empiricism. The 18th century laid the basis for modern-day economies, medicine, philosophy, and other such disciplines, all through a driven, knowledge-hungry middle class that was sufficiently educated not only to question authority, but also to spread their ideas to the masses. This latter point was crucial, as it allowed them to have political clout in the face of the lethargic hierarchies that they were confronting. In many European countries, literacy more than doubled during the 18th century. By 1750, some societies already had over half of the population capable of reading and writing. Schools became increasingly accessible, first to the middle class and then to the working class as well. A virtuous circle was created. Critical thinking amongst intellectual elites put pressure on states to reform, which in turn caused mass education programs, which then caused an expansion of scientific and intellectual elites. This loop would become crucial during the centuries that followed. Intellectual leadership could only strengthen society because the masses broadly understood the value of their ideas, respected the search for knowledge, and directly experienced the subsequent benefits. Libraries were set up, novels were written, academies opened and made available to the public. This period would lay the groundwork for women to escape the oppressive and destructive clutches of traditional patriarchal systems. While traditional family values and gender roles were not yet openly questioned within the political space, the rise of literate women, female authors, and political theorists significantly influenced monarchists and revolutionaries alike. And once again, a virtuous circle became visible, eventually leading to organized emancipation movements during the 19th and 20th centuries. The West could not have developed modern liberal democracy without the rise of intellectualism and visionary debates about what kind of society was desirable. The rise of educated, knowledgeable populations created a diversity of thought previously unheard of. In some cases, states were inspired by these ideas. In other cases, they were pressured into adopting them. But in all cases, eventually, governments were forced to formulate a vision of what tomorrow would look like. This was the start of liberal accountability of those in power, something that would have enormous implications for the following centuries. The power of liberal political ideology had been unleashed.